Great story in the Atlantic the other day that I thought we should follow up here on the show. So I love the opening line, and I'm paraphrasing here, but this will pretty much set it up. There was a time, if we can remember that far back, when most of us did not have a snack, a little treat, whenever we wanted to. Our workday was centered around meals, and eating between them was discouraged. Now, you may remember the warning to kids back in the day, right? That snacking could cause cavities and spoil your appetite. Well, that was then, and this is now. And now, snacking has not only become the norm, but apparently for far too many people, it has replaced meals altogether. And now we've morphed into this phrase: snacks are everything we want to eat, and so everything is becoming snacks. Janis Thiessen is a professor of history at the University of Winnipeg and author of Snacks, A Canadian Food History, among other books, and on the line right now. Thanks so much for being with us this afternoon.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Let me begin by asking you, with respect to that first paragraph that I read, which is in essence what the article in the Atlantic starts with. First of all, snacking has become, as I said, sort of the default now for eating. This is something you look at, you study. Why do you think, and when do you think this started?
This is a 20th century phenomenon, and part of the problem is that when we compare the current situation to the past, which past are we comparing it to? So, in an industrialized capitalist society, the three-meal day structure emerges in response to the needs of the factory, right? You want to maximize productive capacity. You want the machines going all the time. So everyone takes the same lunch break. Everyone takes the same dinner break. But in a pre-capitalist society, 3 meals a day is not necessarily the norm. So some of the hand-wringing about, snacking has destroyed the 3 meal a day, but how and when we eat and what we eat has always been in flux through human history. So the hand-wringing is sometimes a little overwrought. But certainly there has been a shift in the last half of the 20th century towards more snacks instead of meals in the traditional sense, the industrial capitalist sense of 3 meals a day.
And I'm going to guess some of that, certainly based on what I read, it has to do with the fact that, time, which is something perhaps we had a lot more of, women returning or starting in the workforce, as you're suggesting, that had a lot to do with a shift in how we eat. But it seems that the companies that produce these snacks have certainly capitalized on this.
For sure, but, Stats Canada tracks the consumption of snacks, and snacks are simply defined as anything eaten in between the 3 stereotypical meals of the day, and it includes things like fruits and vegetables, of which we eat as Canadians considerably more than Americans. But there are these other snacks that are viewed more negatively, some rightly so. I don't think there's a lot that can be said nutritionally from a redeeming standpoint about sugar-based snacks, although there's a lot to be said about them favorably in terms of the delight they offer and the camaraderie with friends and celebrating occasions. But other snacks that get demonized, potato chips, for example, in some ways are no worse than many other foods that don't get that kind of critique. Bread, for example.
Wait, I'm sure people had just heard that you say that it's okay as far as chips go to snack on those, which many people think is great news because that's what they do. Where do you draw that distinction between chips and bread, for example?
Well, it depends on, what the purpose is of eating, right? If the purpose of eating is solely to extract nutritive value, then you want to look at what's inside potato chips and what's inside literally every other thing that you consume. And if your concern is like processing, well, unless you're hauling something straight up out of the ground and eating it raw, everything undergoes some degree of processing, right? But there are other reasons to eat, and they include pleasure and enjoyment and building bonds with friends. And so ideally, you do want to have variety in your diet, but we have that. We sometimes, again, it's a factor of living in a capitalist system, is that we assume that it has always been this way, right? And that the declension is only in the last 50 years. Mm-hmm. But in a pre-capitalist society, your average, this is something that scholars have studied, the typical pre-industrial British peasant, 80% of their diet was beer and bread. And so we eat today, most of us, not all of us certainly, but most of us in North America eat today a diet that, only rich people in a pre-industrial society were able to enjoy in terms of its variety.
So are you making the case that, in fact, and maybe this is interesting because it's sort of a divergence from what the overall take, I think, in the article was, right? That snacking as a rule, and yes, you can break down what it is you snack on, is not good for you necessarily, certainly not nutritionally, but you don't necessarily agree with that.
I don't think how many meals you have and when you have them matters. What you eat matters, but what we've decided to call snacks is fairly arbitrary, and what we've decided to call junk food is also somewhat arbitrary. There are a lot of foods that are quote-unquote junk that don't get that label and are no better or worse for us than other things that we have chosen to assign that label.
Can you put a label on some of those things that you would at least agree are junk, that you qualify as junk, that we perhaps don't recognize?
Candy, yeah, for sure candy. Not really any nutritional value there. But as I say, we're not eating candy because we're hungry. We eat candy for other reasons.
Because it feels good.
Some of us eat too much of it,
right.
Correct? Undoubtedly, but some of us eat too much other things too. But yeah, we eat it for pleasure, we eat it for enjoyment, we eat it for nostalgia.
So I wonder, based on that then, and you brought up the word processed before, and that's something we keep hearing all the time, right? Ultra-processed foods now, and the fact that clearly they're not good for you nutritionally. Is that a problem as far as you're concerned?
For sure. The degree in which additives are added to a food, the degree in which it is turned into like something you don't have to chew has an effect in terms of how your body processes it. But ultra-processed is also one of these labels that what exactly is its definition and which foods get the ultra-processed label applied to them and which don't. And again, bread is one of these things. You take grain and you grind it and you combine it with many other chemicals and put it in an oven and it undergoes various chemical reactions and browns and things. Is it an ultra-processed food? Well, not in terms of the ways that many folks prefer to use that language in order to present whatever case it is that they want to make about what you should or should not be eating.
Are we eating much more sugar now than we did years ago?
It depends on what time and place you want to talk about. But certainly sugar is, in terms of human history, sugar as we use it now is a fairly recent phenomenon for North Americans. The sugary substances that we tended to rely upon were more based on natural products like honey rather than natural products that have been transformed into sugar like, cane sugar or beet sugar. So we are eating sugar in more forms now than we were 500 years ago. Most definitely.
Okay. Do you snack?
Oh, for sure.
What do you snack on?
Oh, it depends. I very much like refried beans. I very much like grapes. I used to be extremely fond of potato chips, but I'm supposed to be eating fewer of them apparently because of cholesterol. But the same thing is true of cheese. I used to be a huge lover of cheese and I'm supposed to eat less of that now apparently too.
Okay. I want to thank you so much for your time. This has been very enlightening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
You too. Bye-bye.